All right, good morning, traders. TG here. It is November 3rd, Wednesday, so I'm going to be recording this early this morning. I got to take my wife to the urgent care. She cut her finger this morning or last night, so we're going to be doing that. I wanted to give you guys a pre-recorded something so that there would be at least here something you can check out. I'll be back later in the day. But other than that, if you guys have any questions about who I am or if you're new to this, come over here to profitpilot.com and come check me out. Got all sorts of information there. You can click on services if you want to be learning more about the Moxie indicator and how to talk and the classes I teach and the alert services and all that kind of stuff. So let's go over here to the S&P. Now we had some unemployment out today, jobs numbers, and then we also have the FOMC later today. So we've been watching this market just creep up for at least an extra week than I thought was going to be happening. So basically in through here, this all seems not necessarily excessive, but just odd, the fact that it does just keep creeping up like this, despite the Moxie indicator not looking super good. That's really not a sign of strength in through there. And yeah, we just keep pushing. If we look over here on the daily chart, we keep pushing that third ATR like this, and the market has not pulled back to even the 21 EMA on the daily chart. So this thing is just looking wildly overbought. My contention is I keep looking for price to come back down to the daily 50. It might take a while. We don't know, and we don't know how quickly it's going to do it, but that's what I'm ultimately looking for to reassert the trend. And then I've also been noticing that that price is over the daily 50, but the Moxie indicator is still below zero. So that's going to be an issue at some point, I believe, and usually the way to fix that is to have price come back down to test the daily 50. I'd also be looking around the hourly 200 for that area. One thing to note that we do also have price keep moving up like this, and we have the Moxie indicator moving down like that. So then if we look at the Nasdaq, it's basically the same thing. You know, price just kind of keeps pushing a lot. And what we can see is there's really not a lot of extra energy here on the 15-minute time frame. It has been generally positive. It is over zero, but it's just going nowhere. I mean, you notice that price keeps moving up like this. Notice that the Moxie indicator is flat. You can also see that on the hourly chart, price keeps moving up like this. Notice that the Moxie indicator has just been flat to slightly down. That's not terrible. It's basically coasting, but it is a lack of supporting divergence. It's a lack of support. It's a version of negative divergence because price keeps going up, but the indicator is not going up any higher. So new highs on no more momentum. It's just the same momentum. So it's been coasting. That will eventually kick in at some point and be an issue. We do also see that there's starting to become a gap between price and the hourly 50, and we are starting to push outside that third ATR with the Moxie indicator still below zero. So I'm still looking for a fairly healthy pullback at some point. And if we look at the IWM, it's been having a great time. You know, it has this big move started from an actual trampoline move right there. That was perfect. So price below the 50, but the Moxie indicator above zero, that's an actual trampoline move. Great. And you can see here it bounced off the 15-minute 50 when it got going. And then you can see here price bouncing off of the daily 50, which also set off that trampoline move. So the IWM is doing great. Of course, it will probably move in conjunction with the rest of the market whenever it does pull back. I don't really see any signs of that yet, except only for third ATR. You know, third ATR maybe starting to get that gap between price and the hourly 50. And then we'll have to watch and see whenever price falls off of the 15-minute 50. Then we kind of get into, let's say, the UVXY, because with that, we're trying to see if there are any clues as to when the market's going to pull back. As I said, we have FOMC today. That might be a thing. So I was getting a little concerned with the UVXY because in through here, it was basically trending up while the market was still trending up. And that's not usually something you want to see. You don't want to see the UVXY move up when the market moves up. You want to see them move opposite of each other. And I was noticing that the Moxie indicator was over zero this whole time too, and noticing that the Moxie indicator kept moving up like this. And then it looked like it was getting ready to cross over the hourly 50. So I don't see anything yet. It is still at its lows, very low. Maybe we're starting to get some divergence like this. So that could be a bit of a trick, you know, when the VXY drops down and then shoots right back up the other way. That's a possibility. And if we look at the VIX, this is another way to be looking at it. The VIX is also kind of interesting, at least for market pullback, because if you look here on the daily chart, here's the leg, here's the heel, here's the arch of the foot. We could be forming the ball of the foot right there, and we might get the elf toe. And if we get the elf toe, that means that the market's going to be moving down. And what we're seeing here on the VIX is price got over the hourly 50, and now it's pulling back into the hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator crossing over zero. And kind of the same thing here. We're seeing price pull back into the 15-minute 200. So I'm not counting this thing out yet. As I said, we got the FOMC today, and there could be some fireworks later today and tomorrow. And these things, volatility is kind of shaping up like there might be something coming. And I think we all be looking at the market and saying, this market's getting awfully crazy. I just don't know how much further. Obviously, it's gone much further than a lot of us have thought, but at some point, this thing is going to give. So that's what I'm looking at. Then if we come over here looking at GLD, got pushed down a little bit today. Mostly what I've been looking for is it to try and turn direction. I think what's happening is that the hourly 200 is going from a downtrend to flat to an uptrend, and it might take some time. So I haven't been doing anything with this. I've been watching it. I do think it's going to start turning to the upside, but we're going to have to wait and see that happen. GDX has been a clearer picture of that. Gold itself is kind of all over the place. But GDX, what I'm looking for is that now that price is pulled back into the daily 50, this is actually a trampoline move. Price below the daily 50, but the Moxie indicator above zero. Stochastic is even down at the low. So there's a possibility that the GDX, downtrend right here, then flat, and then uptrend that even around in this area, hasn't happened yet. I'm watching it. But we might start getting some support, and GDX, gold, silver might start moving to the upside, something in this area. So just got to be patient, keep watching that. Bitcoin was having a pretty good day. Actually, not Bitcoin itself, but a lot of the Bitcoin miners. So GBTC is one way to look at it. I did take a position on it yesterday. A little bit down today, so we're going to have to see what it's going to do. Generally speaking, I figure it's going to be chopping around in this area. If we look at, let's do /BTC, look at it that way. If we look at the Bitcoin futures, we can see that it's right here, right at all-time highs, which I figured there was going to be a pullback, and there has been to the daily 21 right in that area, and I figured there'd be chop. So, I just figure, okay, we're going to get some chop, maybe it's going to do something like this, where it was going to hold the daily 21 and then start to move back up. I think reaching new all-time highs is a pretty good milestone, and I think it's digesting it, and it's just probably a matter of time until it gets going again. So just going to be patient on that. If the Bitcoin miners and anything related to Bitcoin was any kind of clue, I would imagine that there's still going to be more, because if we look at HUT, there was a big move yesterday. How about Mara? There was a big move yesterday. Mara broke out of this. I could draw it better, but there you go. Broke out of that pennant, and then you see pulled back right there and then shot up. So Mara is having a pretty good day. Oh, let's see. BITF had a really good day. Look at that. Looking at these things, big volume on that. And then MSTR had a pretty big day yesterday, and you can see it came up here and hit that third ATR. So yeah, just a bunch of names like that were really, really moving. Even Hive was another one. You can see that big day, one of the biggest volume days in recent history. A lot of volume has been coming into it in general, and then huge volume yesterday on a big up day. So sure looks to me like the Bitcoin space is doing quite well. Okay, so then maybe we'll talk a little bit about, let's do Lucid. Okay, it looks like Lucid's having a good day. I've been watching for this thing to pull back. I've been looking for this. I wanted to see price come back a little bit closer to the hourly 50. Now it looks like it's popping up today. I guess buy the dip, any kind of dip, any dip's good. It could still just chop around sideways. So I'm trying to find a way into there. I wanted to see price get a little bit closer to the hourly 50. So I'm going to be kind of holding off a little bit for that, especially with the FOMC today. And then, if we go over here and we look at Tesla, man, Tesla's just, of course, it's a beast. Having a good time like that. Now, it is obviously overbought. It's a pretty difficult and risky place to try and buy it up here. But for now, what I would be saying is I like to look at the 15-minute time frame, and you can see that for now, it has been following the 15-minute 50. Now, is it at the end of its rope? It might be. So be prepared. There might be a bit of a pullback or a flag coming, partly because I am seeing some negative divergence here like that on the 15. And just because, it's up here at the third ATR, it's very far off of the hourly 50, and it is in outer space on the daily chart. I get it. This is fantastic, but what comes up must come down, and at some point pull back. People are going to take their profits. So I'm not saying anything bad about Tesla, like, whatever. Great move, but just at some point it's got to come back down and give a good buy point. Another good buy point. So we'll just have to keep watching and waiting on something like that. But I would not be starting to purchase Tesla up here. I would definitely wait for a pullback. So then some other names, Lyft, man, this is funny. So Lyft, I don't know. I know they had earnings, so I don't know what their news is, but boy, talk about either manipulation or something like that. Look at this thing. It just got driven all the way down like that, just lockstep. I mean, it was kind of crazy how straight up a line that thing was. It's almost like somebody was planning something. And what you can see is actually went right here to the double bottom. And then you know what? Had earnings and boom, popped on earnings. So whatever reason that is, if you do want to go long, I've got my rules. I'm going to have to wait for it. We got to basically wait for something like that. I'm not going to just go buy it here. I'd wait. We need to let everything kind of change and turn for it. Now, of course, in sympathy, Uber is popping up. We were trading this one short for a while and it worked out for us, but I was trading it short right to the daily 50. It worked out exactly as my rules had wanted. And then now that it's bouncing, okay, fine. This is actually a trampoline move. So you can see price below the daily 50, the Moxie indicator above zero. It's basically the same setup I'm looking for on GDX. And so we'll have to see if that happens. If we look here at the weekly time frame, Uber might actually become a long, which is what I was telling the Moxie subscribers. We traded it short, but now that it's at the daily 50, it might become a long. But you can see here, leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot, looking for that alto. Might be happening. And then if we look at Away, which is kind of a travel technology ETF, I'm going to like to look at this and just see if there's any clues. One thing I've noticed is it did do the 50, 200, 50 maneuver. And now we're going to have to see if that's going to hold. Starting to see, some positive divergence come in on the hourly chart. Hasn't kicked in yet. Not sure if I'm going to play this thing, but it is something to look at, note, and watch because sometimes I do find it interesting to look at ETFs and see what we can glean from them. All right, one other thing, if we look at Zillow, I think you guys have been probably hearing about Zillow in the news. They overbought too many houses. I guess their AI got a little carried away and mispriced 7,000 homes, and they had to just get rid of a bunch of things and tighten up ship. So they are down on earnings, which is one of the reasons why I really don't like to trade earnings because you just never know what's going to be happening. It does seem as though somebody knew something before earnings because price was taking a nosedive before that. So in sympathy with that, you have Open, which was on a pretty good streak. And the Moxie traders know that I was looking for Open to come back down to the daily 50 at some point. It took a while, but I was looking for it. And lo and behold, it did it in basically 1 to 2 days because of that Zillow news. One thing to note about that is here is the Moxie price trigger to the downside, basically telling you that energy is no longer positive. It's gone negative. And then with this big move up, I guess 2 days ago, that was actually an inverse trampoline move. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below zero. And then we could also just say, well, there was a really big gap between price and the daily 50. And apparently they were just, of course, it was just waiting for that news on Zillow. So boom, price came down. At this point, it's just going to have to let the dust settle. It also has earnings coming up. So I would not want to be trading something like this until after the dust settles and after earnings. And then also in sympathy with that is Redfin. So it's down a little bit, but basically there's just been no trade. There's just been no trade with this thing, with earnings and everything else coming up. It's just been super choppy. So just got a couple things that I wanted to be able to show you guys out there. All right, so that's going to be the quick little wrap up this morning. As I said, I'm a little occupied this morning. I hope you guys are having a good time out there. It's Wednesday. Remember, FOMC later today. We've had the jobs report, and I think there's another announcement this week or later this week that might be market moving. So do keep that in mind. You guys take care, and I will talk to you later.